It's a trip down memory lane, isn't it? The best period of time in my life. I learned through trial and error. I thought I was going to be the only brown person here, because that's how it normally is. You know, it's funny to laugh at that kind of thing, but I'm in a world where that's been common for my entire life. In the audience, whether it's black, Asian, whatever it may be, it's just great to see diversity slowly creeping in, because it is a world that's open to everyone. There's so much to do in this beautiful thing we call life.
Lewis Hamilton.
It doesn't change anything in particular, it's just your job is done in that year and you just move on to the next thing, and you know, you're always looking forward, and that's how I'm tuned. I'm just always looking forward and never really looking back and thinking anything more than what a great roller coaster ride it was. Next is, there's so much. Do what makes you happy, do what you love, and just trying to be a positive beam of light whenever you can.
Sir Lewis Carl Davis Hamilton is a British racing driver currently competing in Formula One for Mercedes. In Formula One, Hamilton has won a joint record 7 world title championships and holds the records for the most wins. 7-time Formula One champion Michael Schumacher. Germany born, January 3rd, 1969, former racing driver who competed in Formula One for Jordan, Benetton, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Schumacher has a joint record 7 World Drivers' Championship titles tied with Lewis Hamilton, and at the time of his retirement from the sport in 2012, he held the record for the most wins, 91 pole positions, 68 podium finishes, and 155 which have since been broken by Hamilton. While he maintains the record for the most fastest laps, 77 among others. After beginning his racing career in karting, Schumacher enjoyed success in several junior single-seater series. One, after Formula One, appeared with Jordan in 1991 Belgian Grand Prix. Schumacher was signed by Benetton for the rest of the 91 season. He won his first and second driver's titles consecutively in 1994 and 1995. Schumacher moved to the struggling Ferrari team in 1996. During his first years at the team, Schumacher lost out on the title in the final race of the season in 97 and 98 and suffered a broken leg from a brake failure in 1999. He and Ferrari won 5 consecutive titles from 2000 to 2004, including the unprecedented 6 and 7 titles, breaking several records. After finishing third in the 2005 and second in 2006, Schumacher retired from the sport, although he later made a brief return to Mercedes in 2010 to 2012. In December 2013, Schumacher suffered a severe brain injury in a skiing accident. He was placed in a medically induced coma until June 2014. He left the hospital in Grenoble for further rehabilitation at the Louisiana University Hospital, before being relocated to his home to receive medical treatment and rehabilitation privately in September of 2014. These top 10 Formula One drivers that I've listed here are not in any kind of order. Everyone has their favorite. There's some that didn't get listed among the greats. These are probably among the greats in our modern time. Please subscribe. Brazilian driver Ayrton Senna.
I'm down in the Williams garage with Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell, and we've just been talking about you really haven't had a great deal of practice this year in very wet conditions.
I think we have had more in the past, but I think after a few years of racing, we all have enough practice of wet conditions, and it's only really a question of conditions being reasonable and not impossible, like we experienced, for instance, here 2-3 years ago. And hopefully this rain will ease up and we have just a wet circuit in which hopefully we can cope and still have a race. But surely in those conditions it becomes a big lottery, the final result, because many unpredictable things can happen.
Nigel, it's an extremely bad circuit for drainage. It holds the water, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, yes, as Ayrton said 2-3 years ago. I mean, that was a horrendous race, and it was just by luck whoever survived the first few laps.
So I guess you're hoping like hell that it's going to blow over and you're going to have a reasonably dry, clean race.
Well, I think the thing is, as long as it doesn't sort of get into rivers, so we can actually have some sort of visibility, we'll be okay. But if it gets as bad as it was a couple of years ago, then it's going to be very difficult.
Now, do you change the cars very much for the wet condition, or do you simply just alter the brake bias in case it does dry up? Or are you going to give something away in front of Ayrton?
I'm going to put 4 holes more wing on, 3 on the front, and change the springs, and I hope Ayrton does the same.
Oh yeah, you're silly enough to believe that, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? We'll find out afterwards. But you know, it's the last race. We have the pressure down. There is the Constructor Championship, of course, but really the pressure is a lot lower now. We are going to all try to do as well as we can, but it becomes a real lottery in those conditions, because whoever changed the car settings, how much it changed, and then how developed the conditions will determine the final result. And it's not a predictable race where you go dry, you know the settings, optimum settings for everyone, and then it's a more clear fight. Like this, anything can happen, and anyone can win or can be second or third, and at least the championship is over.
Well, that's what I reckon. I reckon the championship's over. You don't have to worry about points. You don't have to worry about thinking about the championship. In theory, you should be able to just enjoy yourself and get out there and go for it.
Now, that's a big mistake. The biggest thing we're going to worry about is staying on the circuit.
Sure.
Okay, good luck to you both. Thank you. Back to you, Ken.
Brazilian racing driver who won the Formula One Drivers' Championship in 1988, 1990, and 1991. Senna is one of 3 Formula One drivers from Brazil to win the World Championships and won 41 Grand Prix, 65 pole positions, and the latter being the record until 2006. He died in an accident while leading the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix driving for the Williams team. Senna is considered by media commentators and fans to be one of the greatest F1 drivers in history. Nigel Ernest James Mansell, born 8th of August 1953, is a British former racing driver who won both Formula One World Championships 1992 and the Kart IndyCar World Championship Series 1993. Mansell was the reigning F1 champion when he moved over to kart, becoming the first person to win the kart title in his debut season, and making him the only person to hold both the World Drivers' Championships and the American Open Wheel National Championships simultaneously. His career in Formula One spanned 15 seasons, with his final 2 seasons at top-level racing being spent in the kart series. Mansell is the second most successful British Formula One driver of all time in terms of race wins, with 31 victories behind Lewis Hamilton with 103, and its 8th overall in Formula One race winners list behind Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, Max Verstappen, and Fernando Alonso. He held the record for the most poles set in a single season, which was broken in 2011 by Sebastian Vettel. He was rated in the top 10 Formula One drivers of all time by longtime Formula One commentator Murray Walker. In 2008, ESPN.com ranked him 24th on their top 25 drivers of all time list. He was also ranked number 9 of the 50 great F1 drivers of all times online, and that list also included such drivers as Prost, Senna, Jackie Stewart, and Jim Clark.
This is the time when McLaren will be strongest, and Senna goes through. Senna leads, Mansell retakes it. Wow, already the Titans are fighting. Well, we always knew that this Australian Grand Prix was a potential ripper, and it's turning out to be just that. Mansell leads Senna.
Tremendous stuff. Ayrton Senna making a bid. That was a real do-or-die effort. He's frightened that Mansell's going to get away because the superiority of the Williams was there in practice. It was there in the warm-up this morning, not in Mansell's case because he had an engine problem, but certainly in the case of Patrese, and Senna is really charging.
So Mansell with Senna tucked up behind him. Senna is giving Mansell no rest at all. The last Grand Prix in their present circumstances for both of them. Each regards the other as his main rival, and rightly so. And what a classic this is turning out to be. Race order on lap 3. Mansell leads, Senna second, Patrese third, Schumacher is fourth, Berger is 5th, Alesi is in 6th position, Brundle is in 7th, he's gained a place. 8th is Andrea De Cesaris, 9th is Mika Hakkinen, 10th is Comas, 11th is Modena, 12th is Morbidelli. And we're going down the Jack Brabham straight now, 6th gear, 310 kilometres an hour, hard on the brakes for racetrack hairpin, accelerate away.
In front of us now is my potential race car for the Indy World Series. If I can just walk you around it, I'll point out some fundamental differences that we have from a Formula One car. Straight away, I think what we'd like to do is start in the middle of the car and then we'll move forward. As you can see here, this is the main refueling tank, which depresses in there if I've got enough strength. And they basically put 28 to 38 gallons of fuel in there, depending on when you pit stop, of course, and it's all gravity fed. Through here, you have a breather on the other side. Yeah, this is an important part here. This is the air jack, and obviously it plugs in here, lifts the car up. You've got to be very careful to keep your feet out of the way. Normally when we're in the pits, Kenny, who does it, will actually say, coming down, and you've got to make sure you're out of the way. Mainly because this car is another 500 pounds heavier than a Formula One car. Formula One car, if it's down to the weight limit, is about 500 kilograms. These, they weigh in at 720 kilograms. Moving across to the front now, some other vital bits of equipment on this car, which is very different to a Formula One. Bearing in mind that this car now is prepared for an oval circuit. This is an incredible headrest, which is very, very firm indeed. And then this fuel meter here is very, very important. I'm just about to zero it for you. You've got 44.9 there now, and you zero it. Every time you come into the pit, you have to zero it, and then you have an actual sticker which will come on here for the race, which will actually show you when you have to pit if there's no yellow flags. Goes without saying, if there's yellow flags, the team manager will actually call you in if he thinks there's a window to come in, which might be better to actually sort of try and win the race and try and sort of do a bit of trickery. Again, on the steering wheel, very, very important piece of equipment here. Obviously the radio, and radio is very important for IndyCar racing, far more than Formula One, because of the yellow flag situation again. This little trick device, obviously it's only a switch here, but this switch, if you push it to the left, will actually jack the rear right height of the car up, which will basically put cross weight into the car. Equally, if you push it to my right, the other way, it will jack it down. What that does, if you've got an oversteering car, you have a possibility of upwards of 50 pounds cross weight in the car to adjust it yourself while you're running. And on an oval, this little piece of equipment is very, very important. Okay, well, we're just about to show you the thing that's given me probably the biggest consternation of the last 4 years, which of course is the gear lever. I haven't had one in the Williams for a few years, and this is the magic device, which all cars have, and you just got to get used to it again. That knob is the actual knob I used when last time I used to change gear in 86, 87 and 88. So a little bit of nostalgia there. It's the actual same knob that I won quite a few races with the Williams team. This little knob here is for the brakes, anti-clockwise instead of clockwise to go to the front. Okay, the roll bar here, you push in and to the front to go soft, and the rear roll bar is set in the soft position already. You have to push it in and pull it back. Very difficult to do it when the car is standing still, especially when it's all preloaded. So, but those are the two roll bars which can alter the settings of the car. Well, along the front, what I'd like to show you is the suspension. The one thing that you can see, especially on an oval, is how strong everything is. Everything's very, very solid, and of course it has to be because of the G-force that you're actually pulling. The Lola car especially is, I think, and has been for the last couple of years, the best car to have in IndyCar racing, and I'm very, very comfortable to be driving this Lola this year. Just moving around now to the front, the other fundamental things that we have is the front wing. And we have the availability that when we make a pit stop, we can actually adjust the front wing. So if we have an understeering car or an oversteering car aerodynamically, we have the literally the facility to either turn this in or turn it out. If we've got too much oversteer, then obviously we'll lower this wing just a little bit, 1 or 2 turns. And equally, if we've got too much understeer, then we'll bring this flap up and give the car a little bit more downforce at the front. Okay, moving back now towards the second half of the car, there's some quite significant differences. Straight away you say, well, what on earth is this thing here? Well, this thing can make a difference if you're winning or losing a race. This is the blow-off valve. This is the valve that regulates the boost to the engine. Yeah, I mean, obviously it goes without saying that the single biggest difference between Formula One engine-wise and IndyCar is the engine, which is turbocharged. This develops probably a little bit more power than the aspirated engine, and certainly a little bit more torque. You don't feel it too much more because of the weight of the car on acceleration, deceleration. Moving on here, we have the turbocharger housed just in here. We have the wastegate system, and you'd probably say, well, why is all the exhaust enclosed here? And we have air blowing in here and out through the back end. Basically, we try and protect everything within the car because this can get well over 1,000 degrees C. So they house it, and the most important thing on one of these cars, especially on an oval, if one of these pipes come off or just leak, that can cause a major, major accident. Moving to the back of the car completely now, you can see the major difference between an F1 and an IndyCar is that the underneath of the car finishes at the axle. As you know, with a Formula One car, the underwing of the car will actually come back almost to the back wishbone or right back to the end of the gearbox. The exhaust system, the wastegate, and the actual bodywork, the underneath of the car, finishes at the center line of the axle here. Okay, as you can see, the camera is now showing you the total underneath of the car. The reason for that is that in a Formula One car, it's a completely flat-bottomed car. Now, in an IndyCar series, the cars are allowed to have an underwing, and that's how we generate the downforce. So that's going back to, if you like, the ground effect days of Formula One without the sliding skirts. The underneath of the car generates an awful lot of download. Okay, the incredible thing is with an IndyCar as opposed to a Formula One car is that before you get into an IndyCar at a race meeting on an oval, you think that it's been in an accident already. I mean, if you can see, the whole thing is tilted. If I just move out the way here, can you see? The whole thing is preloaded to the left. And that makes it difficult for 2 reasons. One, the car's always turning left, which going into the left-hand turns is sort of fairly important. But the problem is, as you come out the turn, to go straight, you must exert a lot of force in the opposite direction to keep the car going in a straight line. The other important thing is how much you preload the left side to the right side, the springs you carry on the right side to the left also, and the cambers that are on the car. It is quite phenomenal, it really is.
Circuit.
Warming the tyres up now, going around the left-hander towards Luffield corner, and then round here now to Woodcut, and now accelerating as hard as one can, a little bit of wheel spin opposite lock, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth gear across the start and finish line, trying to leave your braking as late as possible for Copse now, braking at the 100-metre board, round the corner, flat in fifth, accelerating through, leaving every bit of the circuit, sixth, into this complex of corners at Beckett's now, fifth, bit of oversteer, down to fourth, accelerating through as fast as you can. Now you're losing the picture because of the lateral G load here, you're snapping 9G, down onto Hanger Straight into sixth gear, approaching 190 miles an hour now, and into the new Stowe corner. Down to fifth, down to fourth, trying to hold it tight, accelerating all the way, sliding out, fighting the car a little bit, into fifth, braking hard here now, fourth, third, second, car a little bit in the way, second, third, round club, the new club, the G-Force round here now, look at the helmet, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, coming up round Abbey Curve, very fast now in sixth, up to the Foster's Bridge, a little bit of a lift and flat in sixth gear, into the new complex, braking very hard down to third gear, a lot of opposite lock, keeping on the power, fighting the car, coming again into Luffield corner, a lot of slide, a lot of opposite lock, third gear, down to second gear, now through Woodcut again, accelerating across the grass just a little bit, third, fourth, fifth, in sixth gear, start and finish line.
1 minute 22.64 seconds was Nigel's lap time on Friday, but his fans knew he'd have to go faster still on Saturday. And so did Nigel as he talked things over with Williams designer Patrick Head. At least a second quicker had to be their target.
Alain Marie Pascal Prost is a French retired racing driver and Formula One team owner, a four-time Formula One Drivers Champion from 1987 till 2001, and held the record for the most Grand Prix victories until Michael Schumacher surpassed Prost's total of 51 victories at the 2001 Belgium Grand Prix. In 1999, Prost received the World Sport Award for the Century for the motorsports category.
I'm very proud to share this, number of titles with Lewis and Sebastian, because they are for sure one of the best drivers of the generation. And you have Fangio, you have Michael and Sebastian Lewis. You know, I am sharing that with a group of very talented drivers. There's no question about that. Yeah. A country like France is like England. That's where the automobile sport is born. You know, with big names like Bugatti, Talbot, and obviously Renault and Peugeot, Citroën. We are countries where the automobile sport goes as a very close link to the automobile industry, and it's really a shame that we did not have this race. It's not only a race, you know, but it's also a very important event for a country, that it shows the image that important for the country, especially at the moment. It is also important for Formula One, because I was always in favor of having at least in 4 or 5 countries in Europe, that we need to keep the culture of this, the tradition of the automobile sport. Business has changed. They are racing drivers, they are cars, the engines, you know, the steering wheel. They do what we think that we were doing, but they are doing it a different way. When I was driving, I knew exactly what was in my car. You know, I can almost tell you the setup I had in Rio in '84, you know. And today it's impossible to do that, because they are specialists in each kind of environment. And the driver is more controlled from the engineers, but that does not mean that his work is less. We cannot minimize the work they are doing and the speed they have to do, but they are doing different things. So we have to be, all the drivers, we have to be careful about what we say sometimes about the young generation and the young drivers. You know, it's different. Okay, we have to accept that.
Emerson Fittipaldi, born 12th December 1946, is a Brazilian former automobile racing driver. He won both the Formula One World Championship and the Indianapolis 500 twice each, and the kart championship once.
This was an era when danger and death were commonplace.
From the beginning of my Grand Prix career to my Indy career, I lost 37 friends. I remember leaving home thinking, I'm going to be back here on Sunday or not. I knew it was a very high risk. Emerson, you dream all your life, since when you were in Interlagos, 5 years old, to be a Grand Prix driver. You always remember in motor race, you always have two options in motor race. You can win or you can finish first. It's your choice. That's how you have to go racing.
Brazilian-born driver Sir Jackie Stewart.
A wee letter to a much younger Jackie Stewart. It's very easy to get carried away with the glamour, the colour, the excitement, particularly if you make it into Formula One. The second thing is, without any doubt, is don't think you're that good. No matter what the media say, no matter what the fans say, there'll always be somebody a wee bit quicker. I don't want to see you getting upset. Remove emotion. Emotion's the most dangerous thing you can ever have. When you get too happy and because of a win or a good time, suddenly you make mistakes. I lost all of my friends. None of my top racing drivers that I ever raced against are now alive. They've all been killed driving racing cars. Motor racing was dangerous and sex was safe. That was the swinging 60s and 70s.
The harrowing Nürburgring circuit, considered by most drivers to be the toughest and most demanding in the world, is described by the best possible guide in the world, Jackie Stewart.
So we're going down this wooded section, this funnel almost in the forest. You're going down in fourth gear, very, very quick indeed. This is an area where you can lose a lot of time. You can, of course, gain a lot because here you've got to be very clean. You come in here to this particular corner, you're braking quite hard into third gear. And you can go through here in third gear if everything's right. Now in full tanks, you might go through in second. But again, you've got to be clean because if you get it on the wrong line on this first bend here, you're going to lose this whole series. Here you see yourself going through what is really a cutting in a heavily valleyed area with trees. Now, can you think of going down here at 175, where the car bottoms out and it graunches the suspension, the chassis really gets gouged. You're going up here with so much G-forces on that you can't take your foot off the throttle and get it onto the brake. Every time I see this, it frightens me, because there's no barriers on the right-hand side, there's just a rock face and trees. You've got a left-hand side barrier, but that's not where you're going to go off the road. I think if I were to walk around them, I would be horrified. I would never drive around the place again. So the faster you drive around the ring, the less you know, and maybe that's the best thing to do. You're towards you in the famous carousel, and if you look forward, you see the high fir tree. Now, we aim the car at that high fir tree, and if I put this car on the line for the fir tree, I go exactly into the bowl of the carousel. And there you are, into this bowl. It's a second gear corner. You're accelerating round this corner. Out you come. The car lifts itself out the bowl. If you come out too early, the car will just fly straight over to the barrier. The whole surface of the Nürburgring is never even, you know, it's never totally flat. You're sort of, if the left-hand side of the road is up, the right-hand side's down. The whole car is pitching and tossing all the time, and the car is working terribly hard in its suspension. It's a horrible compromise for the designer. The Nürburgring it's like riding a bucking bronco. It's like a rodeo, because whatever you do to a racing car, you never seem to be able to have everything working as one. The hedges at the Nürburgring are worrisome. The marshals seem to hide behind the hedges. And in fact, here you've got no barriers at all. You're just going down this sort of chute that looks like a bowling alley, really. And you're going down here, the car's bumping and diving all the way along here because, again, the car is either going down and bottoming on a, you know, on a deep sort of gouge in the road, or it's half leaving the road in some of the little humpback sections of the main straight. For a quick laugh at the Nürburgring, you've probably experienced more in 7 minutes and 6 or 7 seconds than most people have experienced in all their life, as the way of fear and the way of tension and the way of animosity towards machinery and to a racetrack.
François Sévère was killed in an accident.
I was so shocked by it, but then I was so angry. I then said I was no longer going to be a racing driver.
The great Mario Andretti.
You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to limp a little bit a few times. Dear Mario, I have quite a few things that I'm going to be telling you that are going to be enlightening, because the way things look right now, you know, everything that you're thinking about after seeing the Grand Prix of Monza and also the Mille Miglia, I know that the mold was cast at that point as far as this is what I want to pursue. I know that at that point it's going to look like the impossible dream, because you're still in a refugee camp and the future seems to be rather uncertain, to say the least. Dad's going to tell you, it looks like we may be going to America. You're probably going to be a bit disappointed, because I know that you're thinking that you want to become a race driver right here in Italy, but you know what? You're still a kid. You're going to learn things quite quickly. And when you get there, you're going to find out that there's a racetrack right in Nazareth. And you're going to hear a roar of engines. And you're going to discover what motor racing on a local level is all about in America, which, in effect, it's going to look like it's quite doable. Whatever you do, never have a plan B. Just keep the plan A going, no matter how impossible. Number one, you're going to start, you want to build a car to start racing. You won't dare telling your dad, because he doesn't really understand. When you start talking about racing, he'll say, you guys are crazy, you're crazy. Don't even dare thinking about that, because, you know, in racing, they bring more body bags back from the races than they do trophies. But somehow, Mom is going to be pretty much in the know, but she's not going to be involved. Moms have an intuition that is very special. So without saying anything, you know you're going to have her blessing. You start building this car at age 17 with the idea of racing by the time you're 21, because you know that it's illegal to race before that. You're going to be 19 and you have a hurdle to overcome here. You're going to befriend Les Young, and he's the editor of the local paper. You're going to ask him to fudge the birth date on your license. So all of a sudden, you're 21. There are no computers at that time, so you'll get away with it. You know, it's just like going to school. You know, this is actually going to be not even first grade, it's kindergarten. But you're not at the top yet. You want to keep moving forward. Always think of where you really want to be ultimately, to satisfy the dream to start at, say, in Monza, Formula One. At Indianapolis in '65, you're going to meet Jim Clark and Colin Chapman. You better tell Colin Chapman that you'd like to do Formula One someday. Believe it or not, Colin Chapman is going to say, Mario, when you think you're ready, call me. I will have a car for you. And that's going to be the happiest day of your racing life to that moment. And then in 1968, it's time to give it a go in Formula One. Your debut at Watkins Glen, you're going to put that car on pole. That's going to give you a lot of encouragement, obviously, and you're going to win your first Formula One race in South Africa for Ferrari. Believe it or not, a few years later, you're going to win the World Championship. And that is the ultimate. Along the way, in '77, you're going to win the US Grand Prix at Long Beach, the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, which means you're going to win the Grand Prix that's your home and your native Grand Prix. So good stuff. You're going to have good stuff coming. And remember this, little Mario. When things are tough, you got to keep your head high and think, you know, this too shall pass. When you reach the top, make sure your head still fits on your shoulders. And another thing, along the way, never ever burn a bridge. This is the best advice that I could give you. Life's gonna go on. You know, even when you come out of the cockpit, you're gonna be very proud, of course, you know, because our name will be somewhat synonymous with the sport, because that's what we want. That's all we really, on the professional side, cared about. Keep your head on straight. Enjoy every minute of it.
The great Niki Lauda.
You only learn out of losing. I lost a lot of things. I mean, I lost a lot of races, some with my own fault. Sometimes the engine blew up. Then I came to Monza and I could not drive because it was 42 days after I was dead, more or less. And the accident came back, the fear came back, everything just shut me down. The most important is, as soon as you're recovered, you have to force yourself to do the same thing again. Go into the car and drive it. It's the only way where you can stop this ongoing fear. There are some people born, they are frightened, some people are less frightened, and some people have no fear. I think I was born without fear. Because otherwise I could have never taken up Formula One in these days, where every year 2 got killed. There are little things in life. I mean, there are so many things we realize, shit, I should have done this or that. Everybody makes mistakes. So I do mistakes. For me, this was not a problem, and it's not a problem today. Because all my bad experience in this accident, it was made me much stronger. Because you don't waste time blaming somebody else, analyze yourself, change yourself to be successful. Nothing can come today which worries me at all. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you enjoy your job or your challenge you put onto yourself, then you're happy. It's not a question of age, it's a question of staying a child, being always innovative, always looking for new experience, being interested, then you keep on going.
Andreas Nicholas Niki Lauda, 22nd of February 1949 to 20th of May 2019. An Austrian Formula One driver with an aviation entrepreneur. He was a 3-time world champion driver, winning in 1975, 1977, and 1984. He is the only driver in F1 history to have been champion for both Ferrari and McLaren, two of the sport's most successful contractors. Lauda emerged as a Formula One star driver amid a 1975 title win and leading the 1976 championship battle. Lauda was seriously injured in a crash at the 1976 German Grand Prix while racing at the Nürburgring. During the crash, his Ferrari 312 TB burst into flames, nearly resulting in his death after inhaling hot toxic fumes and severe burns. He survived, recovered significantly to race again just 6 weeks later at the Italian Grand Prix. Although he lost that year's title by just 1 point to James Hunt, he won his second championship a year after during his final season at Ferrari. After a couple of years at Brabham and 2 years at hiatus, Lauda returned and raced 4 seasons for McLaren between 82 and 85, during which he won the 1984 title by half a point over his teammate Alain Prost.
I know he'll be looking down, and I know he would take his hat off today. So I just was trying to stay focused and trying to make him proud. You know, that's kind of been the goal all week, and we're going to try to continue that through the year, but we truly miss him.
Lewis, that was a victory worth Niki. Well done, unbelievable job, congratulations.
And all around Monaco now, those on the boats, in the grandstands and on the hill, have brought their red caps with them and are doffing them to the 3-time world champion, Niki Lauda.
I think today is obviously about the winner, so congrats to Lewis, but even more so about Niki. And I think it's a good, he would be happy today. But yeah, I think he will always be around, and we will definitely miss him. I think he's been an icon in the past, and he will be in the future. So.
Fernando Alonso Diaz, a Spanish racing driver currently competing in Alpine in Formula One. He won the Series World's Drivers' Championship in 2005 and 2006 with Renault. He also driven for McLaren, Ferrari, and Minardi. With Toyota, Alonso won the 24 Hours of Le Mans twice, 2018 and 2019, and the FIA World Endurance Championship in 18 and 19. He also won the 24 Hours of Daytona with Wayne Taylor Racing in 2019.
Can you be the ambassador of peace for Lewis and Nico in conflict today?
Well, at least someone's given him a chair. And maybe that man is checking if Fernando wants a caipirinha, I don't know. He knows he's being watched, and he's just doing that for the cameras now.
Try 3 times, please, Fernando.
I try already, so try yourself.
If I will be here in the future as a driver, as a father, as a FIA boss, or whatever, I will think.
Anyway. Not the FIA boss.
No.
At least when I retire.
Maximum penalty.
Yeah, what an idiot. Closing the door from the outside. I mean, we had a mega start, but this guy only knows how to drive starting first.
Were you surprised when Charles pitted to try and get the softs on for a fastest lap?
Second?
When Charles pitted at the end there to try and get some softs on for a fastest lap, were you surprised? Did you think he'd come back at you?
Yeah, I was surprised, but Ferrari always does some strange strategy, so that was one of those.
All right, thanks, Fernando. Well done today.
If you have the possibility to choose your teammate for next year, would you choose Jensen?
Take your time.
Dear Fernando, there are a few things that you should know before entering into the F1 world. So here are some tips. So the first one is that you will meet some incredible people. They will be the best in the world, in their job, and you will learn a lot of things from these people, not only on the technical side, on the professional side, also on the human side. And I think it's going to be a fantastic journey that you will have to enjoy every single minute.
This is a list of my favorite top 10 drivers. Please subscribe. Thank you.